Welcome back to Overreaction Monday, guys. It's a great Monday because the Packers have won, and I'm feeling great. But I've got how many words? 4 words, I think it is. Bang, bang, Packer gang, baby. Let's go. Feeling great this Monday. I know Vincent's feeling great as well. We'll get into everything, talking about the big games this weekend, but we're going to go ahead and get right into the video. But first, make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And then, as always, please, guys, go to the comments. Tell us how we're wrong about our overreactions. Tell us how we're wrong about our takes. We want to duel it out in the comments with you guys. So go hit up the comments and we'll talk about, or you guys can just tell us straight up, tell us we're stupid. All right. I'm down for it. All right. Let's go ahead and get into these overreactions. So our very first overreaction, Vincent, is can we trust this Texans team? And I'm here to say I don't trust them worth a dang. And I would say something else there, but this is YouTube. But yeah, the Texans have looked very inconsistent for me. They are now 7-5. The 5 teams that they have lost against is going to be now the Titans. They've lost to the Jets. They lost to the Lions, which the Lions is understandable. They actually were in that game.
It's close.
Them there. They've lost to the Packers and they've lost to the Vikings. But they had close games against the Bears, close games against the Jaguars. This team has not been very impressive to me at all. Still a winning record, which is in this league is very impressive. But this offense for me is not the same offense we ended the end of the year last year with C. Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I know Nico Collins has been hurt for a lot of the season, and now Stephon Diggs is out for the entire season, which was who they were hoping to be like the over top guy. But they have Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has been great for them, but they just haven't been able to consistently put up points on the board. And for me, I'm putting most of the blame on CJ Stroud. All right. That people put him up on a freaking pedestal going into the season, and in my opinion, I didn't really see it. I put Jordan Love on a pedestal, so I'm just as guilty as everybody else. All right. But this game against the Tennessee Titans, which they have a decent defense, he was 20 for 33, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. And those interceptions can be very costly for your team. That's what kept these Titans in the game. For me, I cannot trust this Texans team going forward. Will they make the playoffs? Most likely. Will they maybe disrupt something in the playoffs? Potentially. But for me, I really cannot trust this team moving forward. Vincent, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, so I was also like a CJ Stroud believer. So that's where me and Reed disagreed. But lately, CJ Stroud hasn't been playing that good. As Reed said, he alluded to the interceptions that are not going to help you win a game, and that's what's been happening the past 3 games. And the last 3 games, they've been 1-2. Of course, the Detroit Lions, like Reed said, is acceptable. They're the number 1 team in the league. They've played like it for a long time. But then, Dallas, they struggled a little bit. Still got the dub there. Ended up taking it away late because of the defense. But then again, Tennessee, I thought this was going to be another easy win. I thought they were going to cover by the 8 points that they needed to on betting against the spread and all that stuff. But they just didn't. I don't know what it is. And I think I'm going to have to agree with Reed here. It's CJ Stroud. He is not playing very well. Throwing for a lot of yards, yes. Nico Collins is making a difference. Dalton Schultz is making a difference. Mixon this game did not. So I have to give some props here to the Tennessee Titans defensive line. They played outstanding today. Again, some of these guys are guys who are just swapped from other teams through trades and stuff, trying to piece something together. And today they just played phenomenally. So if you had the Titans defense in fantasy, I mean, good job. But other than that, CJ Stroud hasn't been playing well at all. I think it's going to continue going into next week when they play against Jacksonville. Their defensive line is also pretty good. And I think when CJ Stroud plays against a good defensive line, his whole demeanor, his whole skill set just goes out the window. He's not that pocket pass kind of guy that you want him to be. It's also not a rushing quarterback like you want him to be, like we saw in college. So I think it's going to be a tough stretch until they get to their bye week in week 14. And then after that, it gets even tougher. They got Miami, Kansas City, and Baltimore. I think they're going to lose more games than they win going into playoffs.
All right, so you set me up perfectly, Vincent, because my question for you is, yes, they got 5 games left to the end of the season. Everybody's making their final push as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. Every game matters at this point. Everything makes it is like a make or break it game in case you make the playoffs right now. But they got the Jags, they got the Dolphins, they got the Chiefs, they got the Ravens, and then they finish off back with the Titans, who they just lost against. What do you say, Vincent, is their record out of those 5 games?
So I'm going to go game by game. I think they're going to win against Jacksonville, but it's not going to be a pretty win. So they're going to get a dub going into the bye week. That's 1-0 there. I think they're going to lose 3 straight once they get back from the bye week. I think Miami's going to be a loss. Miami is catching some heat there. Jalen Waddle's playing well. Tyreek Hill's assisting there. Jonnu Smith is just a force to reckon with. And Houston Texans defense is horrible against tight ends. So that's also going to be a difference. Achane is exploding as we want him to. So I think that's going to be a tough L for the Texans. Kansas City, we know how they win games. It's going to be close, but they're going to end up prevailing against a not so good defense and not so good CJ Stroud right now. Baltimore, it's Baltimore. It could be a toss-up, but I think the Texans will end up losing this game too, and they haven't been good against good teams, especially not good running teams. So if Baltimore can get Derrick Henry involved, I think that's a loss there for the Texans. I think going back to playing Tennessee in the last week of the playoffs, or last week of the season, right before playoffs, I think that's a must-needed win there, and it's going to be closer in their division than they want it to get into the playoffs, but I think they get the dub there. So I think they go 2-3 in these next 5 games.
I perfectly agree with you here, Vincent. I was going to say the same thing. 2-3, the same losses. Yes, they could surprise the Dolphins or Ravens. I definitely think they lose against the Chiefs. But I think 100% that they go 2-3 the rest of the season, which would leave them basically that's 9-8. 9-8. So maybe winning the division depends how that division goes, and then also most likely maybe making a wild card spot. So we'll have to see how it shakes up fully. They can surprise us, and if they win one of these games, then they're 10-7 and can definitely win their division. But we'll see. It's going to be tough sledding. The Titans you just could not have lost against. That was like a game you could not afford to lose.
Yeah, and I mean, with Indy only 2 games behind right now, it's going to be a tough race. I think Anthony Richardson plays well the rest of the season, even though they have tough matchup as well. Mm-hmm. But it's just going to be tighter than you want it to be. Houston should have taken this a long time ago.
I agree with that, Vincent. All right, we'll see. Time will only tell how well this Texans team plays. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about probably one of the game of the week, in my opinion, was the Commanders versus the Cowboys. The Commanders ended up losing this game 34-26. And man, was it a crazy ending. I was losing my mind. I was like, okay, Commanders are going to try to do something last minute and put a drive together, and they instantly connect with McLaurin, and McLaurin runs all the way up down the sideline to score a touchdown to hopefully tie it up. And I was like, wow, this game's going to overtime. I can't believe it. It's wild, And then they send their kicker out there, and he misses the extra point to tie up the game and go to overtime. And then get this. Then they try to kick an onside kick and get the ball back. And then the Cowboys ended up returning it for a touchdown. It doesn't get more crazier than that. When I was watching the game, I just couldn't believe it how the Commanders screwed it up so badly.
That last minute of the game was crazy.
It didn't make any sense to me. McLaurin is incredible. Him being able to and Jaden Daniels being able to get him back in that game. Obviously, he made the connection there. But missing that extra point in that critical of an error right there. I forget the kid name of the kicker off the top of my head.
Siebert.
Siebert, thank you so much. But that is the first extra point he's missed all year. I don't know what his career record is on them, but yeah, that's his first one he's missed all year, and it comes in the most crucial time where you cannot make up for it. A lot of people were saying, man, you guys should have gone for a 2 and then just secured the win. hindsight is 2020. I think playing for overtime is always the smartest thing. And then you onside kick it, try to get the ball back, and the worst possible thing that ever happens is they return it for a touchdown. Like, absolutely wild. Couldn't believe it. Vincent, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, so just a correction there. He missed 2 extra points today.
He missed a field goal and an extra point, I thought it was.
No, he has 2 missed field goals and a field goal. Or 2
Oh.
missed extra points and a field goal is today.
Oh, okay.
He just came back from injury. I believe he had a hamstring injury, so maybe that's what's messing with him. But again, he hadn't missed an extra point all season, just to answer that. But yeah, I thought the Washington Commanders should have won this game for sure. They had everything going in their favor, and then that just ruined it all. So again, I think Washington is still somebody to be scared of. Jaden Daniels and McLaurin are just going insane. I think the loss of Brian Robinson in the beginning of the game really hurt them. So that's something also to look into. But hopefully Austin Seaver will get back on track. I have him in like 4 out of my 5 fantasies. So today was just a horrible day for him, sadly. But I don't know. I still believe in this Washington offense. Again, they just needed a little bit of something to kick them in the butt, and that's today. So a loss to Dallas. They're going to go in next week against Tennessee and probably, hopefully, since we saw Tennessee actually play good this week, hopefully have an easy win. But that's really all I have to say about this one. It was just some sloppy football from a young team, in my opinion, on that offense, run by Jaden Daniels. So we'll see what happens. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, and I'm actually worried about them moving forward because the 2 injuries that they had, Austin Eckler at the very last play of the game, or second to last play of the game when they were returning the kickoff, he ends up getting hit, and he is now hospitalized, most likely for a concussion. And who knows how long it'll be for him to come back. And then also, as you said earlier, Brian Robinson, ankle injury. Hopefully he can come back next week and be able to play, but right now we don't know. Losing their top 2 running backs and having to move forward with McNichols is that? Yeah, there you go. Is not ideal for the Commanders moving forward. Now Jaden Daniels can always rush the ball by himself with his own legs, but not ideal. Losing your 2 top running backs in one game. Hopefully both of them come back as healthy as possible, but Eckler most likely is going to be multiple weeks. Brian Robinson hopefully can come back healthy next week, but losing both of those guys is definitely going to hurt this offense moving forward.
For sure. Just put Marcus Mariota in. F it.
Ooh, I like that idea, Vincent. I like that a lot. All right, but definitely craziest game, in my opinion, of the week.
It was so crazy. I just saw your messages in the chat, and I was like, dude, same. I'm driving right now, and I'm just blowing my brains out. Like, I was just listening to it all on Red Zone.
I was like, Commanders, that was crazy. And then I was like, Commanders, that was crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. We're going to move past the Commanders and stay in the same division, though. We are going to go talk about the New York Giants, who just released their starting quarterback, Daniel Jones, and he is currently clearing waivers as we speak. But they moved on from Daniel Jones. They benched him, put him as 4th string. He asked for a release. They ended up releasing him, and they have named
Tommy
DeVito. I almost said Daniel DeVito. They named him the starter of the football team and made a lot of head scratch. We're going to get into that a little bit, but yes, they named DeVito the starter of the team, and let me tell you, it didn't matter who they had starting for this team because it literally looked just the same with Daniel Jones and without Daniel Jones. They got shut out the first half last week, and this week they got shut out for the first 3 quarters and finally were able to score a touchdown in garbage time in the 4th quarter. Now, Devin Singletary was able to rush for that touchdown. Now, Tommy DeVito, by stat-wise, doesn't look horrible. 21 for 31, 189 yards, no interceptions, no touchdowns. Not a horrible game, but not a game that's going to help you win anything. I thought it was just a head scratcher. I thought it was what's the word, entertainment move, I guess, putting him as the starter because he's the, you got the Italian move. Baker Mayfield paid tribute, as he said, to him. He wasn't making fun of him. He said he was paying tribute. He's a big DeVito fan himself. But yeah, this team did not look any better with this change. You finally moved your franchise forward with saying, okay, we're done with Daniel Jones. We're going to find the future. But DeVito's not the future, and he's not going to help you win any games right now. Are you tanking, or should you start somebody else, Vincent?
Drew Lock.
Okay.
Oh my God. As soon as I saw Daniel Jones dropped, I instantly went to fantasy and picked up Drew Lock because I was like, there's no way, right? There's no way they're not just going to trade for him. Or basically, yeah, it was basically a trade. We didn't sign him again, and they picked him up. I thought it was going to be like the perfect way to where Geno Smith played with the New York Giants, and now he came to the Seahawks, and blah, blah, blah. And now Drew Lock came from the Seahawks, and he's going to go to the New York Giants, and voila, everything works out, right?
Okay.
But then they just make a horrible decision, and they start Danny DeVito. Or, sorry, I said Danny DeVito too. Tommy DeVito.
Yep.
Jeez, like, it was a head scratcher as soon as it happened. We saw the press conference from Drew Lock saying, I don't know. They said I was QB2 this whole time, and now miraculously I'm still QB2. He didn't get it. So again, Tommy DeVito was the third emergency quarterback the entire season, basically. I do agree with you, Reed. I think this was a publicity stunt to try to get some blowback off of the New York Giants from keeping Daniel Jones this entire time. But I also want to talk about stats like how you did. I'm a very stats-oriented guy. I've said that quite a few times. But pretty much similar from Tommy DeVito and Daniel Jones. They both threw for 189 yards versus 190 yards from both of their last games. So I think this is Tommy DeVito's last game, in my opinion. I think Drew Lock gets the start since he did come in for a little bit. So hopefully next week against Dallas, we'll see Drew Lock. But also, yeah, you said it. I mean, 21 completions for Tommy DeVito, 22 completions for Daniel Jones in the last game. 7 rushes for both of them in this past game. Like, it's exactly identical. The offensive strategy didn't change whatsoever. We saw, oh my God, this was the worst thing to see, in my opinion. Malik Neighbors, in his press conference right after the game, says, it's not the quarterback. The quarterback situation is not the problem. He's like, but don't ask me. I don't know what's the problem here because obviously, I'm just here to catch the ball. I'm just a receiver. Nobody trusts me, basically, is what he said. So there's some turmoil in this entire locker room, and hopefully Drew Lock is the answer to that. I think Drew Lock, when he played with us in Seattle, he knows how to use his weapons wherever they're at. It's going to be hard with that offensive line, but he had practice when he went to the Seahawks and played behind that horrible offensive line too. So I think this is the perfect fit. It's a perfect time for Drew Lock to go. They better make the right move. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah, so anybody that any of the Giants fans that comes at us in the comments says, oh, you guys are wrong. That's not the same thing. Guys, it's coming from your own locker room. It's coming from your locker room that it ain't the quarterback. I don't know who it is. It ain't me. It ain't the quarterback. Something's wrong here. And I think he's not saying it, but saying it. That's on the coaching staff.
Yep.
Now, Daniel Jones, 100% wasn't the guy, and wasn't the guy that was going to take you to the promised land. But whatever move that you ended up doing isn't going to help you guys either, right? I think you guys should have made the move in the offseason.
Yep.
Cut him afterwards. I understand the whole injury clause where if he got hurt this season, then you have to owe him money for next season, and it'll tie you up. I still think you should just get on moving with Daniel Jones personally, but yeah, it's causing a lot of chaos in the locker room, and I think there's a lot of people they're already frustrated, and Neighbors has only been there for one season, and he's already frustrated with the whole thing. He knows how good he is. He knows what he can do in this league, but he ain't got nobody to help him, unfortunately. But yeah, we will see what the Giants do next. I think they should definitely start Drew Lock over DeVito. DeVito's fun. He's gonna still use some jerseys. It's really fun seeing the whole Italian thing. But let's move on and put the better start in
Yeah.
Drew Lock.
I think it's only fun when they're actually doing good. Right now, it's not fun because they don't get to do this when he scores because he didn't score this week.
Yep.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna head into our last topic of the day, and it's a little sorrowful one because it's potentially talking about not just a season, but also a potential dynasty ending. And we're going to talk about the San Francisco 49ers. And our question in my overreaction basically is the 49ers season over? I think it may be. Now, the 49ers, as we all know, have dealt with a lot of injuries this year, with the Bengals one being CMC finally getting him back. And now this game, they were down Trent Williams. They were down Nick Bosa. They were down Jimmy Ward. It's not Jimmy Ward. It's something Ward, their corner. And they were also down
Tre'Davious Ward,
Tre'Davious Ward. And they were also down Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Being down your quarterback, that's the most hurtful one right there. And obviously Nick Bosa and Trey Williams is just as important to that team. But a lot of injuries and why they're not able to get there. But yeah, this season may potentially be over. They are now sitting at 5-6. They are at the bottom of their division. At the bottom, the 49ers, yes, that is correct. They are at the bottom. And they got at least 2 extremely hard games left. They got the Bills and the Lions. In my opinion, the Lions is definitely a loss. I think the Bills should be a loss as well. And then also they got the Bears, which they should beat. But with depending on who's your quarterback, I don't know. They have the Rams, they got the Dolphins, and then they got the Cardinals to finish the season.
It's tough.
That is a tough schedule to finish, and you still don't know. We don't know what Brock Purdy's status is right now. They thought off his original injury that it was just going to be something he could bounce back from. His practice, it did not go well, and they're like, okay, let's get some scans done. The scans showed that it was all good, from my understanding, and then he still didn't feel good enough to go for it. So a lot of questions there as far as how severe his actual injury is and how long this is going to knock him out. But for all those people that are saying, oh, you can put any quarterback in that role and they're going to be incredible and whatever, and Brock Purdy's just a product of the system. No, we can see it right now. He's not just a product of the system. He's what is elevating that system. They need Brock Purdy back very, very badly. And if they don't get him back with this type of schedule, I think the San Francisco 49ers, and this is my overreaction, are going to miss the playoffs. Vincent, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that overreaction.
Yeah,
I do. I know AJ doesn't, so I'm gonna sympathize with one of my best friends, AJ, who's not here. So this is for you, my man. It happens, sometimes your quarterback goes down. Sometimes it just is not your season. And it hasn't really been all that bad the past 5 years. You guys have made great playoff runs. You've had phenomenal teams, pretty much Hall of Fame teams. If you go back and look at how the offense has performed, how the defense has performed as well. It just was not the best when you got to the Super Bowl. Again, it happens. It's happened to the Buffalo Bills before, where they've made multiple Super Bowls back to back to back and, didn't get it done. But I don't know if it's an end of a dynasty for them. They still have a lot of these players locked up in the next few years. So hopefully just all these injury-riddled seasons, hopefully this is the last one for the 49ers. And as a Seahawks fan, I don't wish any injuries on 49ers players or anything like that. But it has been a bad season for them injury-wise. I mean, we talked about it. 5 star players this game were injured right after playing the Seahawks. So it happens, we're a tough team now, I guess you could say. Before, when we played them the first time, we really weren't. But now we got some stuff going. So hopefully Brock Purdy comes back quickly. I think he is a good staple point in the NFL. I think he's going to be a starter as quarterback for the 49ers for a while. So hopefully there's some optimism he comes back next week. But then again, there's also high optimism that he doesn't, because again, they don't know what's going on with the shoulder. But he's still young. I still think the 49ers have a chance going into these next few years. But I agree with you, Reed. I think this year, even if they do make the playoffs, I could see the 49ers going one and done if they make the playoffs. Same thing for the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think we're, all that in a bag of chips. I think if we make playoffs, 49ers make playoffs, or the Arizona Cardinals make playoffs, we're all one and done teams. The only team that I think that could make the playoffs and actually win in this division, and this is my totally unbiased because it's not the Seahawks, it's the Rams. The Rams and Matthew Stafford with that offense, their defense is getting better on a week-to-week basis. I think they're the team, if they make the playoffs miraculously, they're the ones that everybody should be worried about in our division. And not that much. Maybe like one game they'll win. Second week they'll probably be out in the playoffs. But yeah, our division right now is not that good.
All right. Well, I think at the San Francisco 49ers, if they do end up making the playoffs, which is a stretch at this point, unfortunately, but it's possible, they're not mathematically out. That's one of the teams I do not want to see in the playoffs. That is definitely one of the teams I do not want to match up against. Just want to have PTSD from all the times in the past 10 years they knocked us out of the playoffs. So I have that. But also, if they can go into the playoffs and they're at least decently healthy, they're still going to be banged up. No one's healthy in the playoffs, really. But if they can start all those starters in the playoffs, all of them have experience in winning these playoff games. They all know what it takes and what it needs to get done in the playoffs to win a game. So 100%, I think they can steal a game or two if they end up squeezing into the playoff picture. So I'm hoping they don't make the playoffs because I know how dangerous personally they can be. Now, Seahawks, Cardinals, I think they can definitely are just one and done if they make them. Rams definitely could win a game or two, but the Niners are what I'm most scared about. I hope your team gets healthy. I wanted to face a healthy Niners team today. I was very disappointed with all the injuries because I wanted to get revenge on all of you guys for the playoffs, and this didn't feel like revenge. I just felt like we were just beating up on like a grandma or something. It was not a good win. It didn't feel good. But yeah, I very much hope you guys get healthy, but I do not want you to make the playoffs. I do not want to see the San Francisco 49ers, but I think they're not going to make the playoffs at this point. I think their season is done.
Yeah, honestly, with Brandon Allen possibly starting this next game again, I think it's another loss and going down 5-7 will really decrease their chances. Again, every single team has a pretty decently tough schedule in our division, but without your starting quarterback, without your starting defensive end, who's who are both game changers, it's going to be tough. So they both have to come back healthy this next week in order for them to save their season and stay within the divisional rankings, because everybody's going to be going up and down the entire time. If you keep going down and down and down, you're just going to fizzle out. So
100%. All right. Well, that's all we've got for today. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button so you can see everything NSP. Make sure you guys stay tuned for NSP tonight. We will be live with the Ravens and Chargers. It's going to be a great game, divisional matchup. It's going to be so. Hey, come hang out with us, and we'll be live tonight. So come check us out. Thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, keep on grinding.